This Family Life News podcast is made possible by the support of listeners like you.
It's the Noon Report from Family Life, bringing a Christian worldview to what's happening in New York, Pennsylvania, across the country, and around the world. Weather with Kevin Williams, and faith-focused feature stories with the Family Life News team. Now, here's what's happening.
How long will it last? Good afternoon. Welcome to the broadcast. Major combat operations in Iran are expected to last several more weeks. President Trump says the fiercest fighting hasn't even started yet.
They said, oh, well, if the president wants to do it really quickly, after that he'll get bored. I don't get bored. There's nothing boring about this.
Members of Congress being briefed today by Secretary of State Rubio about the ongoing military operation.
The hardest hits are yet to come.
Israel attacked again today a meeting of Iran's senior mullahs in Tehran. They had gathered to pick a successor to the late Ayatollah who died Saturday in a missile strike. House Speaker Mike Johnson.
To have an evil, murderous regime removed, it is a great thing and a great time in history. And we're proud to be a part of it.
Democratic Senator Mark Warner.
Obviously, I've got a slightly different take. There was no imminent threat to the United States of America by the Iranians.
Not true, says Secretary Rubio. He insists Iran was going to be attacked soon by Israel, and that reality necessitated that we switch to offense.
There absolutely was an imminent threat, and the imminent threat was that we knew that if Iran was attacked, and we believed they would be attacked, that they would immediately come after us.
6 U.S. troops have died in the war after an Iranian drone strike hit their military base in Kuwait. The State Department's urging Americans in over a dozen Middle Eastern countries to leave immediately. Tense times on Capitol Hill. Homeland Security Chief Kristi Noem testifying before Congress about the 3-week budget standoff that's left her department unfunded. Democrats are refusing to pony up the money until reforms are made to ICE. This funding fight comes as the Homeland itself is on high alert for domestic terrorism. A third person has now died from that mass shooting over the weekend in Austin, Texas, that may have been linked to the war in Iran. The House Intelligence Committee's released video footage of Bill and Hillary Clinton's sworn testimony from last week that had to do with the Jeffrey Epstein case. Bill Clinton says he never witnessed any crimes being committed by the late child sex trafficker.
I'm here to offer what little I know so I can do my part to prevent something like this from happening again.
Hillary Clinton got visibly angry after learning that a Republican congresswoman released a photograph of the closed-door deposition.
If you guys are doing that, I am done. You can hold me in contempt from now until the cows come home. This is just typical behavior.
The Clintons were each questioned for over 4 hours last Thursday and Friday at their estate in Chappaqua, New York. It's primary day in the Lone Star State. Democrats and Republicans in Texas choosing candidates for a closely watched U.S. Senate race. CBS's Ed O'Keefe.
Democrats see an opening. They've got 2 young progressives to choose from. James Tallarico, a state lawmaker, and a seminarian who's put off his studies to run for the Senate, is facing Dallas area Congresswoman Jasmine Crockett. Both of them are progressives, seen as rising stars in the party.
On the Republican side, incumbent Senator John Cornyn facing a tough primary challenge from State Attorney General Ken Paxton and GOP Congressman Wesley Hunt. By the way, the last time a Democrat won a U.S. Senate seat in Texas was 1988, when incumbent Lloyd Bentsen was reelected. Still to come on the Noon Report for a Tuesday. Miracle on the Hudson, Take 2. 25 to life for Michael Burham. And spring-like weather on the way, but not today.
Good afternoon. I'm Kevin Williams. A little wintry mix of rain, ice, and snow being noted in parts of the area this afternoon, but it is part of a process that's going to warm us up substantially over the next few days. Forecast details are up in 10.
All right, Kevin, thank you very much. Let's check the stories making news across New York and Pennsylvania. A mini version of the Miracle on the Hudson happened last night, 60 miles north of New York City. A small airplane carrying 2 people crashed into the Hudson River in Orange County shortly after 8 p.m. The Cessna performed an ice landing near Newburgh. The occupants inside were able to escape and swim to shore. The FAA is investigating. Local lawmakers are demanding more state money for badly needed road and bridge repairs in upstate New York. Southern Tier Assemblyman Joe Sempolinski telling 18 News in Elmira,
the rural parts of the state should be treated fairly. If there's going to be bumps up for other portions of the state, transportation, infrastructure, local roads should get a bump up too.
The governor knows. She's from Buffalo. She knows what kind of winter we've had, and she knows the wear and tear and what that's done on our roads and the importance of our local roads and bridges for our economy.
That's State Senator Tom O'Mara of Chemung County, who spoke at a press conference Monday. Also in attendance, John Buckley, the mayor of Hornell.
It shouldn't be a political issue. It doesn't matter if you're Republican or Democrat. Everyone uses roads. Everyone uses streets. Everyone uses highways.
Local roads are essential to everything we do. We cover more than half the local roads and more than half the highway bridges in the state.
Schuyler County Highway Superintendent Ken Thurston will be joining hundreds of road workers from all over New York today for a raucous rally in Albany. They're demanding $250 million more in road repair money for upstate communities. The man who brutally murdered a Jamestown, New York mother, kidnapped an elderly couple in Pennsylvania, then escaped from jail. That man learned his fate in Chautauqua County Court yesterday. He's 37-year-old Michael Burham, sentenced to 25 to life. District Attorney Jason Schmidt says it's his goal to keep Burham behind bars for the rest of his life.
It has always been our goal that Mr. Burham die in prison, that he never be released again. He deserves to be punished. Society deserves to be safe. The world needs to know that from a deterrent standpoint that law enforcement will not tolerate this type of behavior and the affront to the criminal justice system that occurred here.
Burham killed his ex-girlfriend Kayla Hodgkin, a Jamestown mom of 3, in her home on Mother's Day in May of 2023. He was later arrested in South Carolina after a manhunt, and then again in Pennsylvania after he escaped jail there. Pennsylvania prosecuted Burham for armed kidnapping, while Chautauqua County pursued murder charges. Once again, DA Jason Schmidt.
The extensive amount of harm that has been caused that will last this family forever, and it probably will go on to the next generation. Just children that are still suffering because of the trauma that they experienced inside that home when their mother was killed as they were all asleep.
Burham will serve his sentence first in Pennsylvania, then be transferred to New York, where he will live out his remaining days behind bars if the DA has his way. 7 men have admitted to using a fake lottery scheme to rob motorists at Pennsylvania service plazas and truck stops. What's this all about? Family Life's Brian Query.
The group, which included 6 men from Ohio and 1 from Tennessee, pleaded guilty in Westmoreland County to felony robbery charges tied to a 2-day crime spree in April of 2023. Prosecutors say the men lured victims at rest stops by claiming a friend had won the lottery and was giving away money. Once victims showed their cash during a staged card game, they were surrounded and robbed of money and jewelry. Authorities say about $21,000 and multiple pieces of jewelry were stolen. The defendants were sentenced to jail time, mostly receiving credit for time served and immediate parole. Brian Query, Family Life News.
Thanks, Brian. The New York Department of Motor Vehicles is urging drivers to check for recalls on their vehicles. Experts say recalls can affect nearly every part of your vehicle, from tires to seat belts to airbags. A study out shows 1 in 5 vehicles on the road in New York today is affected by an open recall. 1 in 5. The DMV has an open link on their website that you can check out to identify recalls and find out how to get the problems fixed, free of charge. New York education officials say a shrinking education pipeline has led to a shortage of teachers at school. There's been a steep decline in the number of college students seeking jobs in education. Now, local districts are taking action.
We've negotiated tuition discounts, and we have our own internal support to provide them assistance so that they can find a path to becoming a teacher. But more than that, we will hire them on an emergency basis right away so that they earn earn an income, start earning, and they are mentored and supported in becoming a teacher.
Chris Miller with the Rochester School District says a student loan forgiveness program is helping with retention and recruitment problems. New York's third largest school district has assisted more than 500 education professionals the past 4 years earn their teaching certificate through the Teach Rochester initiative. NYSUT's Ron Gross says part of the problem is getting teachers to want to actually show up at school.
The allure of remote work is so strong. People, asking people to do this work where they're going to go to work every single day. And there's so many benefits, of course, to being an educator and being in education. That comes with, a cost. I think people are driven away from it.
According to the New York United Teachers Union, there's been a 53% reduction in the number of public school educators in the Empire State since 2009. A big reason for that decline is pay. A new poll shows more than 70% of teachers in New York today have a second job just to make ends meet. A York County, Pennsylvania school board is being sued by the County Board of Elections. The election board claims the Dover Area School Board is violating state law by repeatedly denying their request to use the Dover area high school and middle schools as polling places in the upcoming primary. School board members have reportedly voiced concern about safety and voters entering the high school campus during student exams. New York Governor Kathy Hochul has made affordability the central theme of her re-election campaign, but a leaked memo shows if the governor does not scale back her climate change agenda, it will cost the average New Yorker about $4,000 in added energy costs. The governor blames the Trump administration for pulling back on taxpayers' subsidies when it comes to renewable energy.
Offshore wind shut down by the Trump administration. Solar projects, the subsidies are gone. Now we have the Trump war in Iran that is going to increase the costs of energy from that as well.
The governor was in Western New York Monday for a roundtable discussion on the impact the Trump tariffs are having on local businesses. Sports of all sorts is next. It's the 2-minute drill on the Family Life Noon Report.
Good afternoon, I'm Randy Snavely. Bob, baseball is back. The World Baseball Classic returns for the first time since 2023 when Japan took down the United States in the championship. Exhibition games take place today while pool play begins tomorrow. The United States will open play on Friday against Brazil. On the ice, the Rangers went down 4-0 to Columbus, and then to the delight of the home crowd, they stormed back with 4 goals of their own in the third period to send the game into overtime. But it was not to be, as the Blue Jackets' Kirill Marchenko scored just 1 minute 4 seconds into the OT, and that gave the Blue Jackets the victory 5-4. The Flyers were in Toronto to take on the Maple Leafs. After 3 periods and an overtime, the score still tied at 2. Matvei Michkov and Trevor Zegras both found the back of the net in the shootout, and Philadelphia came away with a 3-2 victory. Elsewhere, the Red Wings doubled up Nashville 4-2. The Stars blew out Vancouver 6-1. The Kraken edged the Hurricanes 2-1, and Colorado knocked off Los Angeles 4-2. On the hardwood, Jamal Murray was the high scorer for the night. He was on fire for the Denver Nuggets on a night when they needed him to light it up the way he did. Murray knocked down 8 3-pointers. He shot 13 for 19 from the field, finished with 45 points to lead Denver over Utah, 128-125. The Boston Celtics won their 3rd in a row and 7th of their last 8 with a 108-81 win over the Milwaukee Bucks. And it was Houston, a 123-118 winner over Washington. That is a look at sports.
All right, thank you, Randy Mann. And still to come on the Noon Report, Day 4 of the war, bicycle evangelism. And Kev says warmer weather's on the way. His forecast after this.
Welcome to Breakpoint, a daily look at an ever-changing culture through the lens of unchanging truth. For the Colson Center, I'm
John Stonestreet. Well, early Saturday morning, the world learned of Operation Epic Fury against Iran at the hands of the United States and Israel. According to the official White House description, it is, and I quote, a precise, overwhelming military campaign to eliminate the imminent nuclear threat posed by the Iranian regime, destroy its ballistic missile arsenal, degrade its proxy terror networks, and cripple its naval forces, end quote. It's always essential for Christians to think like Christians about anything, including these kinds of historic events. And we do so through the lens of essential and foundational Christian doctrine, truths about life and morality and human value. Thankfully, there's a long history, both in the church and the Western world, that wrestles with the morality of military action. I asked Dr. Eric Patterson, president and CEO of the Victims of Communism Memorial Foundation, and an expert on what's known as the just war tradition, about the historic events of the last few days. Here's Dr. Eric Patterson.
As you said, we're just in a dynamic situation since the United States had a military operation alongside Israel, striking these targets in Iran, killing the supreme leader and a number of other military officials across the country. And of course, Iran has retaliated with strikes in at least 5 neighboring countries. And so let me say something about the Christian tradition about thinking about issues of war and peace, but first remind us that going back to the Iranian Revolution of 1979, Iran has been a rogue actor in international affairs, attacking its neighbors and attacking the United States. It's estimated by the Foundation for Defense of Democracies, for instance, there have been at least 180 attacks by Iran and its proxies on the U.S. Now, putting all of that to the side, but remembering kind of the evidence that someone should do something, the Christian tradition asks 3 questions. First, what is the moral basis for the decision to use force? And then second, once that decision has been made, how do we use force morally? And then third, with an eye towards a better peace, what are the ethical steps in the late and post-conflict phase? And that's why I call it actually just statecraft, because it takes the diplomats, the political leaders, the humanitarians, as well as the warriors to all be involved from the early phases, the deterrence phase, the diplomatic phase, through a hot war to the diplomatic and the settlement on the back end. The just war tradition says first, in making that decision, it should be legitimate government authorities acting on a just cause with right intention. And certainly as a country that's been attacked many times and our allies have, the United States government is a legitimate actor to protect the lives, livelihood, and way of life of our citizens and our allies. Just war tradition says that we should act on the just cause. Just causes are things like preventing future wrongs, punishing wrongdoers, and stopping ongoing wrongdoing. And it should happen with right intention. That's a Christian element that's beyond any legal or illegalities in any case, is we look on the heart. Even if something's legal, the morality of it is in intention. And what you've heard from the president and from others is not a dehumanization of the Iranian people. We don't call them names. We actually act out of love. We'd like to see the Iranian people free from tyranny, and at the same time, a change in regime that is no longer a threat to their own people and to their neighbors. And so thinking about this specific case, that's the place to start.
That was Dr. Eric Patterson, president and CEO of the Victims of Communism Memorial Foundation, and an expert on what's known as the just war tradition. For the Colson Center, I'm John Stonestreet with Breakpoint. And for more resources or to share this commentary with others, go to colsoncenter.org/radio.
Thanks, John. Let's head outside. Kevin Williams.
Here is your family life forecast. Through the afternoon, cloudy skies. Spotty areas of rain and still an icy mix for some, focused on central New York and northeast Pennsylvania. Temperatures climbing steadily, 30s for most, but reaching the low to mid-40s close to Lake Erie. Tonight, any rain ends early. Some icy spots could reform overnight, though, as low temperatures drop toward freezing. Tomorrow, clouds, maybe some sunny breaks in the afternoon, mild in the 40s. Some rain returns later Thursday and Thursday night.
Thank you, Kevin. This is the Noon Report on Family Life. I'm your host, Bob Price, and here's what's going on Tuesday, March the 3rd. It's day 4 of the war, the joint U.S.-Israeli military operation to cripple the Islamic regime in Iran, the world's #1 sponsor of terrorism.
We have the strongest and most powerful by far military in the world, and we will easily prevail.
Iranian drones struck U.S. targets in Saudi Arabia today, while Israeli ground troops went into southern Lebanon to dismantle Hezbollah guerrillas. NBC's Richard Engel.
Israel and the U.S. are tearing Iran's military and leadership to pieces, with new attacks overnight and this morning, rocking Tehran and other cities.
Vice President Vance says despite the stepped-up military engagements, this will not be an open-ended war.
There's just no way that Donald Trump is going to allow this country to get into a multi-year conflict with no clear end in sight and no clear objective. He's defined that objective as Iran cannot have a nuclear weapon and has to commit long-term to never trying to rebuild their nuclear capability.
So far, 6 U.S. troops have died in the war. They were killed in an Iranian drone strike on a U.S. military base in Kuwait. The State Department's urging Americans in over a dozen Mideastern countries to leave immediately. More members of Congress are being briefed today about the war. Correspondent Gabe Gutierrez has that part of the story.
As the war in Iran escalates, President Trump says the U.S. is ahead of schedule.
We projected 4 to 5 weeks, but we have capability to go far longer than that.
The administration said over the weekend that Iran was threatening U.S. forces. Now, Secretary of State Marco Rubio explaining it this way.
We knew that there was going to be an Israeli action. We knew that that would precipitate an attack against American forces.
Saying the U.S. had to move fast to avoid higher casualties.
The imminent threat was that we knew that if Iran was attacked, and we believed they would be attacked, that they would immediately come after us. We went proactively in a defensive way.
Democrats aren't buying it.
But if we equate a threat to Israel as the equivalent of an imminent threat to the United States, then we are in uncharted territory.
Overnight, Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu speaking on Fox News.
You're not going to have an endless war. This terror regime in Iran is the weakest point that has been here.
Echoing Defense Secretary Pete Hegseth, who earlier insisted the war wouldn't be forever.
Retired Colonel and military analyst Steve Warren weighs in on the prospects of there ever being boots on the ground in Iran.
Think of boots on the ground in two ways. A large invasion force, which is what would be required to invade and take over Iran. I do not believe that will happen. But remember, boots on the ground is a slang term, not a military phrase. So the other way to think about it is special operations forces, which I believe we will probably see at some point. So Americans in Iran, yes. Large combat forces with tanks and artillery, I believe no.
Israel today took out a second round of mullahs who'd gathered in Tehran to elect a successor to the late Ayatollah, who was killed on Saturday in a missile strike. Iran's military claims to have shut down the Strait of Hormuz, where 20% of the world's oil passes through every day. New videos released by a House committee show Bill and Hillary Clinton answering questions about their relationship with the late child sex trafficker Jeffrey Epstein.
I do not recall ever encountering Mr. Epstein. I never flew on his plane or visited his island, homes, or offices.
The former president has been seen in pictures with Jeffrey Epstein.
Did you ever have any communications with Mr. Epstein that related to young women or girls?
No.
The Clintons each were questioned for over 4 hours last week in a closed-door deposition at their home in downstate New York. A key test before the November midterms happens today in Texas in a Republican Senate primary. Correspondent Ed O'Keefe.
Republicans have a three-way primary between incumbent Senator John Cornyn, the state's conservative Attorney General Ken Paxton, and Houston Congressman Wesley Hunt. Paxton and Hunt say Cornyn's been in political life too long, needs to be replaced, and is insufficiently MAGA. The senator says either of his opponents would run the risk of the GOP losing the Senate seat for the first time in decades.
The last time a Democrat won a Senate seat in Texas was 1988, when incumbent Lloyd Bentsen was reelected. You're tuned in to the Noon Report for a Tuesday on Family Life.
This is Mission Pulse on Family Life. We spotlight ministries making a difference where you live, across the country, and around the world. This week, we're spotlighting Judy Bowman with Wheel Power Christian Cyclists. Judy, tell me how you reach thousands of people for Jesus from atop a bicycle.
Our purpose is to stop and talk to people that we meet, because on a bicycle, you're wide open. We're not locked in behind car doors. We're available. When we see people on a corner, if we go in and stop to use a restroom or fill up our water bottles, our purpose is to talk to the next person, to tell them about Jesus, to give them the opportunity to hear the truth of what Jesus did on the cross at Calvary.
How many miles have you traveled?
We actually have hit the 3 million mark of miles as of last year, 2025. personally, I have done a little over 1 million miles myself. I have pedaled in all 50 states. We've done 15 trips coast to coast. It's been just exciting. And people come, some, like I say, some for a couple of weeks, some for the whole trip across America, which is about 75 days. Now we're doing shorter mission trips, but the whole purpose really is to be available and not ashamed. Romans 1:16, I'm not ashamed of the gospel.
I'm going to ask you a terrible question, but I think it's relevant to telling your story accurately. How old are you?
Oh, my goodness. my mental age is about 40. I mean, I play pickleball and nobody even guesses, but I am 76 years old, and I have not mentally grown up into a 76-year-old body. You know, where there is no vision, people will perish, Proverbs 29:18. That verse is just, it keeps me focused, that people need to hear about the Lord. And until the day I die, I pray that God will speak through me and allow me to continue to disciple others.
What an amazing ministry to be 76. I mean, I'm sitting here at almost 48. I think I've ridden maybe 100 miles on my bicycle since I started. I'm like, all right, okay, it's time to get a little more convicted on bicycle ministries. Tell me what your ministry looks like day to day.
Well, we start our day off with devotions as a whole team, and we pray and we just commit to the Lord what He's going to do through us that day. Well, obviously, safety is a big factor. We've never had an accident with a moving vehicle in 3 million miles. That's certainly a miracle. We stay in small groups together. Sometimes we have 4 or 5 of those groups. Sometimes we only have 1 or 2. Depends how many people sign up for our mission trips. We ride a lot now through towns where there's a lot of people. We just pray. We just stop. Sometimes we don't get too far in witnessing to people. Other times people are like, wow, this is what you're doing? You get a lot of questions like, what church do you go to? Or are you Jehovah's Witnesses? Or, you know, they kind of want to see what we really are. So our answer to a lot of the questions is we're Bible-believing, born-again Christians. And that's who we are. So our day is we'll stop and get a bite to eat somewhere. We've had, I couldn't tell you how many salvations we've had in like a McDonald's or the Quickie store or, you know, just all the way across the country.
You're passing a Walmart and you're on your bicycle. You just get off your bicycle and walk up to people that are outside. How do you open that conversation with them?
Right. Well, Walmart's a great saving place, number one. You know, you save a little money, but also is a great saving place. I estimate over 100 people in the last 20 years when I started counting Walmarts have come to know the Lord in personal relationship with Jesus. When I look at people, I look at them as it's somebody else's mother, brother, sister, cousin, aunt, uncle, son, daughter, whatever. And there's probably somebody praying for them. So I'm just the next step in sharing the gospel with them. Sometimes I just start off with my shirt has a big cross on it, or I'm wearing a wooden cross, and I'll hold it up and I'll say, do you know what Jesus did for you? We're bicycling across America to talk to people about Jesus. Do you know what He did for you? Always trying to make it personal, always trying to connect with people. You know, sometimes I'll just look at somebody like a lady who's got a beautiful pink blouse. I said, boy, that blouse looks so pretty on you. And she turns and smiles, and, you know, we chat for a second or two, and the next thing you know, I'm sharing the gospel with her. So it's not being ashamed of the gospel, and it's not being afraid, because what can mere men do to us?
Sometimes I think in the mind of a Christian, it's not even about being ashamed of our faith, but being scared to begin the dialogue.
Yes. Yeah, it is. I think you're right with that, too. But we have to kind of get beyond that. And of course, I don't walk down the dark alley at 9 o'clock at night looking to witness to somebody. I mean, I am a woman, and I'm going to be smart about who I talk to, and I can size people up fairly quickly.
What are your top tips for sharing your faith? If somebody just got new saved, or maybe they've been saved for a while and they have not told another soul about Jesus Christ, and they had to start from ground zero, they have had no training, no discipleship, how would you talk to them about sharing their faith?
I would have them explain what happened in their life, what brought them to that point of salvation. And that's your story. That's your testimony to be able to share in really a minute or less, because sometimes you never get more than a minute or two with the same person. You've got to get to the point as quickly as you can, but in a loving way, to just come back and say, you know, let me tell you what happened to me. I was going through a tough time, and I really wanted to know what was truth. I was reading the Bible, and a friend of mine started sharing the gospel with me, and you just tell people your story, because nobody can challenge your story. That's how I would suggest people start to witness.
You can can learn more at wheelpower.org.
Amen. It's that simple, folks. Thank you, Sarah. Mission Pulse airs Tuesdays during the noon report or online anytime. Apple Podcasts, Spotify, YouTube, and familylife.org.
Good afternoon. Here is your Family Life regional weather forecast. A slug of moisture well north of a front draped across the middle Atlantic, resulting in a light wintry mix of precipitation across parts of the area this afternoon, most notably parts of central and eastern Pennsylvania into south central New York. Travelers take note. But overall, temperatures are trending higher in the days ahead as a little taste of spring is on the way. But not so much for today. Through the afternoon, cloudy skies, spotty areas of rain, and still an icy mix for some, focused on central New York and northeast Pennsylvania. Temperatures climbing steadily, 30s for most, but reaching the low to mid-40s close to Lake Erie. Tonight, any rain ends early. Some icy spots could reform overnight, though, as low temperatures drop toward freezing. Tomorrow, clouds, maybe some sunny breaks in the afternoon, mild in the 40s. Some rain returns later Thursday and Thursday night.
Okay, thank you, Kevin. And finally, a national prayer event is happening this week. It started Sunday and will continue through tomorrow in all 50 states.
GAP 26 is a national prayer effort. It's all 50 states at the same time. That has never been attempted before, never been accomplished before in 250 years of ministry and 250 years of history in the United States of America.
That's former Alabama State Senator Hank Irwin, and he told Family Life News what the purpose of GAP 26 is exactly.
Our country is divided. 2026, I believe, has been divinely set up for a year of decision where the United States of America has to make up its mind who's going to be in control of our country. It's not going to be Republican or Democrat. It's going to be, are we going to let Jesus be in control of it, or are we going to let chaos be in control of it?
GAP 26 features prayer events in hundreds of cities nationwide. Many of them are being streamed online. You can find out more at gap-event.org. That's gap-event.org. And that's our world, the world we live in. Tuesday, March 3rd. I'm Bob Price, Family Life News.
You've been listening to the Noon Report, heard weekdays on Family Life. Thank you for listening.
Thank you for listening to this Family Life News podcast. If you've been encouraged by what you've heard, please share it with others and click the subscribe button to automatically receive future episodes. Family Life is a listener-supported ministry. Podcasts like this are made possible by your financial partnership. Find out more at familylife.org.